Welcome back to the Ordinary Guy Garage. I'm Scott, an ordinary guy. And so this is going to be the fan installation, kind of a part two, I guess, of the Radiator kit install, the kit that I bought from Summit Racing. Now the Radiator went in great, Shroud fits perfect, every water pump, everything's beautiful. I put in the coolant and I ran it a little bit. Got it up almost to temperature. I didn't have a fan on it, so I just wanted to get it up. That way a little pressure built up in the system and no leaks whatsoever. I'm really super happy with it. Got no complaints whatsoever. I know Summit Racing brand parts is usually a different manufacturer that's reboxed. Some of the stuff is cheaper parts, but a lot of them are nice parts. So I've had really good luck with a lot of Summit branded stuff, and saved quite a few bucks that way. But the issue that I have here is the fan is taller. If I measure it this way here, or it's too tall. It's 4.5 inches to the nub, the very back piece of the fan, and when I go to set it in the truck, it'll hit the water pump bolts right there, so it won't fit. I happen to have one sitting in my storage, and when I measure this one out, it's 3 3/4 right here. So it's 3/4 of an inch shallower, I guess. So I called Summit Racing, talked to them, and tried to see if I can get them to send me another fan. And they had other fans, but it's not really what I wanted. So I found this one, like I said, in my storage, and it works fine. And I'm going to put this one. I just cleaned it up, and so you can't really even tell all that much that it's an older fan. So I'm going to use that one. They're going to take this back. They're going to credit me $84.99 for not using their fan, which is great. Summit's customer service, holy man, is great. So anyways, that's what I'm going to do. So let me get this out of the way and start getting the fan shroud out here and start getting it all mounted together. All right, so what I did was I took the shroud and I set it here on top of a couple of 2x4s just so I can get my hand underneath it, and I could feel on this side and I could feel on that side that it lines up right on the edge. And then measuring in from the side, I'm at 3 1/4 from the edge. 3 1/4 from the edge, a little bit off. There we go. Not to be anal about it or anything like that, but you only have one opportunity to get it right the first time. So take a little bit of time here, and that pen won't reach through there. It does through those, but not through there. That's okay. Once I get these, so I marked it with the Sharpie, went through there. It's the white, my phone has a hard time, camera, whatever, has a hard time not letting things wash out when there's a white background, so you just got to bear with me a little bit. But anyways, I got the bottom two marked, so those I can go ahead and drill out. Go ahead and drill those out. And so what I'll do here is I'll put one of those 2x4s behind here before I hit it with a punch, so that way I don't bend it. Sent me with 1/4 inch bolts, so I'll go up to a 1/4 inch bit. This has a protective cover on it. They'll peel this off, and I'm sure it's nice clean aluminum underneath. Huh. Alrighty. I'll pull this back off. I'll pull this whole thing back off and pull the covering off. But for right now, I'm just going to bolt it up again, so that way I can get the front ones in the right spot. And then from there, we will get that in the right spot, and I'll drill those out and pull it all back apart. Not a big deal. And pull the protective cover off of there. So let me go ahead and do that. All right, so I got the shroud all drilled out, and what I'm going to do now is put a plug on here. So when I pull it apart, because you know it will get pulled apart at some point, I could just unplug it. So what I got, I jumped ahead a little bit. I got these nifty little connectors that are for, well, I got a plug here. It came in a kit. You know, it was just white. I mean, it was together. You just cut it apart. And what I did was I cut it with a razor knife. Just took my razor knife, set it on a block of wood, and cut the insulation part of it off of there. And this one here, you can see it's got a little blue line on it, the yellow one. So that's the, what is that, a 12 to 14, and I can't remember the numbers. But anyways, this is a double sides, because this is a little bit bigger than the wire that's here, so it'll all fit nicely. Whenever you're putting in a plug or a switch or something like that, if you could jump up a gauge, it's not a big deal, but you don't want to go down a gauge, because then you can overheat the wire. There's a reason for the gauges. So jumping up, not a big deal. Jumping down, sometimes not a big deal, sometimes it is a big deal. But I'm a big fan of the shrink tube. I love this stuff. So I even got some of the crimp connectors, because I don't really like the butt connectors too much, because they get dirt and stuff inside of them, and they can come apart real easy. So one of the other things I like, you know, you could buy those cheap, you know, actually this is a nice set right here, and it's got the crimpers on here, and I don't use the crimpers. I only use it as a stripper. I got a specific crimping tool, and it puts a really nice crimp in there, and they really don't come apart. I can solder these two, but this crimp will be good enough. This with the shrink tube over it, it'll hold it in there really well. Also, I like to stagger, whenever I do them, I like to stagger them, you know, a 2-wire thing like this, so they're not right next to each other. Yeah, that's about it with that, but I'll go ahead and put this on. Another thing I like to do is to get it in there. And these here are a solid, but most of these connectors, when you get them, they have a seam. They have a seam in them. And if you look at them closely, you'll see that seam. And if you use this style of connector or crimper that has the little dog in there or whatever that puts that type of crimp in it, you want the seam to be the opposite side, because if you have the seam on that little piece right there, on that little dog, it'll pull the connector apart. So just a couple of tips I've learned, mostly the hard way. But anyways, this is going to be for the long one. Make sure the shrink tubing's on first. Crimper, right like that. Alrighty, I'll Put the other shrink tube on. This one ready to crimp. Let me get my crimps going the same way. I guess that would be for the same reason why you don't want to crimp it on a seam. Holds it in really nicely. See, if you have your crimps all stacked up, then it makes a fatter wire. So anytime you could spread them out is a good way to do it. I wonder if I could do it just like that. All right. I always like to use a heat gun instead of a lighter or anything like that, because it doesn't get it so hot that it gets all melty. So it just takes a few passes with the heat gun. And it starts to shrink right up. All right, so I went ahead and jumped ahead a little bit because putting this shroud in here, I was going to test fit it, and I went to put it in, and it's kind of a little bit of a finagling to get it in. I had to take this clamp back off and push the radiator back to get it in, and once I got it in, I said, you know what, I'm just going to leave it. I also have all of that white protective coating off of here. Summit kit came with these bolts, these little 1/4 inch bolts, and they're stainless steel, which is kind of neat. Nice little upgrade on it. You can see the clearance right here in between the bolts for the water pump pulley and then the actual fan. I got about 1/2 inch. So that is it's tight, but it'll be fine because the motor doesn't move front to back. It only moves side to side when you're driving. So let me come back around. Oh, there's the thermostat switch for turn the fan on and off. Seemed to be the best place to put it. I was going to put it in the cylinder head, but there just isn't enough room back there to get it in there. Okay, down here, I ran the wire from the motor to one of the bolts that holds the fan in, and just one of these insulated protective clamps to hold it in place. And then over here, you can see the plug. Got it right there, so if I need to pull it apart. And underneath here, you can see the relay right here, and you can see the circuit breaker. And that's all tucked there underneath the battery box. So when you look at it underneath the hood here, it's all nice and clean. So pretty happy with the way that all came out. All right, so that'll wrap up that radiator install and the new fan putting on there. You know, it was an expensive deal. You know, I spent $750 bucks by the time I was all done with everything. Well, I'll get $85 back for that other one. So a little over $600, $650 ish. You know, but I got a really nice radiator. Everything went in really good, no leaks. I'm pretty happy with the installation, so everything's good. Can't wait to drive it, but I'm gonna wait for the rain to let up a little bit. It's kind of been raining on and off for the past few days, so I got the truck halfway in the shop, just enough to keep it, the important part, dry. So, but anyways, that's about it. I noticed got some new subscribers. Thank you very much. Make sure anybody who hasn't subscribed, subscribe. Tell your friends, leave me a comment, share my channel, whatever. But thanks a lot for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. In the meantime, everybody stay safe.